every Thursday on YouTube, Facebook, and I'm actually going to be adding on IG. But to get the full visuals, you're going to want to be sure to log in to YouTube and Facebook. Anyway, I appreciate you guys making it out today. Today's going to be an amazing episode. And while we wait for everyone to get logged in, as we got a couple more minutes before we actually begin, I hope you guys enjoy the intermission. Good morning. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Breakfast of Champions. Man, I got some fire today. As you read inside the title, these are basically the primary ingredients to increase urgency, to influence action, to basically increase your sales overall. And these three core ingredients are going to be super important that you fuse into your sales process, because if you're looking to automate your process, if you're looking to make sales with less resistance, a little bit more ease, and find a way to deliver your message to actually generate loyalty, meaning that you can confidently communicate with your prospect in a way that keeps them glued to you, meaning they're not going to shop you, they're not going to think twice about leaving you because you've made such a very strong bond and a connection with that particular prospect. So before we go in, I got a few announcements first. So if you're watching this live, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up icon right below the video. It really helps me with the engagement. And if you could do one thing and just comment in the comment section what state you're tuning in from. As a matter of fact, throughout the actual live stream, for those who engage the most and comment the most, their feedback, their input, I'm going to be giving away some free products. So you're going to want to be sure that you're one of the ones who actually engages within the live stream comment box. Again, it helps me expose this channel to other individuals who may not even know, so they could join us in the future live sessions that I'll be putting together. But today, Breakfast of Champions, for those of you who've never really attended, this is really more or less a live stream where I get to speak with you as a salesman. I'm not speaking with you as a mentor, as your coach. I'm actually relating with you as a salesman. And I think that's a unique perspective, considering there are not too many producing loan officers that are actually giving out the key ingredients to actually make your sales easier, to build a strong mindset, and to build your platform, build your foundation, and help you rise to the top. And that's exactly what we do here at Sales Remasters. So again, I appreciate you joining. Also, in the notes below this video, I've got a contest link. It's called the 30K Giveaway Challenge. My team put it together. I'm excited for this. They had to talk me into giving out $30,000 worth of products for free. And you know what? I gave in. And I think this is a real interesting type contest because it's gotten so much response. For those of you who are already playing, you want to be sure that you mount up as many points as possible. But after this live stream, there's a link below this video. It's for the 30K Giveaway Challenge. So be sure that you submit, and you be sure you enroll. The top point earner is going to earn the Sales Boost Camp, which is a $3,000 course. They're going to get it absolutely free for being the top point earner. The second place point earner will get the secret formula, and the third place point earner will get Closing Secrets 101. So be sure you increase your odds today by clicking the link and play this game. You're going to get a ticket to the top for free, and you're going to get to work with me directly. I'll be announcing the winners at the end of this month. So be sure you do what you can to get those points in. Engage, man. Take action. That's what I'm saying. And then strategy session calls. I got a link where it's just a one-on-one strategy call. These calls have been very impactful with those who actually engage, because I share about 15 minutes with you, going over your challenges, going over your roadblocks that you're running into. And even though we share 15 minutes together, I think it's created so much of an impact where it relieves you from the stress that's stopping you from making a sale. So below the notes on this video, or this video description, will be that one-on-one call strategy link. So feel free to fill that out. Let's reserve a 15-minute slot so that we could talk together and see how I can help you. And then FIF, the Fuck It Friday, right? So the FIF is back on tomorrow, and I want to know what your recommendations are. So feel free to email me or comment in the comment section what you think the FIF episode should be about tomorrow, and we'll just go ahead and cover that. And again, the 3 ingredients. So let me go ahead and outline the reason why these 3 ingredients or these 3 things are very important. As a matter of fact, they're so commonly known. You might even watch this live stream and be like, yo, but D, I already knew that. And if you did know that, then you would be experiencing the success that you're looking for, meaning that you're actually communicating your message and your services and your products in a way that drives the consumer to stick with you, but also take action, create their own sense of urgency, and give you enough loyalty where you can confidently put them in the process and not have to worry, not have to babysit your pipeline. I got a question for you. How many of you find yourself doing more admin work and more processing work than you believe you should? You see, oftentimes we'll do that and we'll make believe it's the processor's fault. But at the end of the day, really what it is, it's actually ours. And I'm not saying it's your fault. This is just the common way of our thought, of our belief patterns, is that we have to babysit a pipeline because we were the ones that told our prospects that it's going to happen fast, or we're going to give them daily updates, or we're going to have an update to them in 2 days. And so we kind of put ourselves under this time limit that we now need the operation side to hold according to. But sometimes we forget that, this influx of business or maybe this current market has kind of set that time back. And so now it's just a matter of, okay, well, if you could set up the proper expectations right up front, then I think you can minimize the babysitting and the admin work and the processing work that you feel that you are required to do just to uphold to the way you set up expectations with your prospects. And so in this live stream, besides commenting below on whether or not you feel like you're doing a lot of admin work that's taken away from your time to put into sales, actual sales origination, I'd like to know if these three pillars, if you're looking at it the same way. So let's start off with the very first ingredient. The very first ingredient is rapport. Why I believe rapport is important is because, finish this sentence. Comment the answer to this sentence or the finishing of the sentence in the comment below. People buy from people they... Right. So the reason why that is true is because if you think about it, if you've ever been referred to anybody, or if you have been referred to go buy some product or service from somebody, the rapport is already there, right? And so you tend to treat them differently because you maybe have a common bond already. And so the rapport is naturally there. It's there by default. But what happens when you're dealing with a stranger, when you're dealing with nothing but just another option in your journey as a consumer to find a solution that we're looking for? We tend to go into our communication with the service providers, the vendors, the salesmen, the loan officers, the businesses. We tend to go in with a guard that is wired in a way where the consumer needs to justify each and every single piece of data. They justify the price, they justify the logo, they justify the brand name, they justify the reviews. Does that make sense? Blame it on Amazon. Blame it on internet shopping as to the reason why consumers are wired this way. But at least in this live session, we're going to be able to understand why they're wired this way. And then we can adapt our message to kind of play to that characteristic. And so rapport is important because without rapport, you're not going to be able to actually communicate with them in a way where they tell you two important things, right? So the very first important thing is to tell you their actual why, is to basically give you the reasons as to why they need the solution. Now, initially, what it's going to sound like when you ask them for their why, because when we ask them, what do we ask them? We ask them, hey, how can I help you today? Or what are your goals today? And I know that's such a hard question to remove out of your lexicon or your verbiage or your script, which if you already downloaded a copy of the sales script and you put it into action, you'll notice that question never comes up. And there's a reason for that. There's a science to that. But for those of you who are having a difficult time of removing that initial question, that's ultimately how we ask how we can help them, right? So we can move straight to kind of qualification and figuring out whether or not we could serve them. But I want you to look at it in a different way. And I want you to understand that the very first ingredient is first to build rapport, right? So we'll use my script for an example because my script, for example, it helps them makes it easier for them to like me, right? And how I was able to do this is because I already understand the resistance, the hesitation that most prospects or shopping consumers have. And it mainly has to do with time. It mainly has to do with fear of price and whether or not they can get it cheaper, right? And so when I built my script, it sounds something like this, like, hey, you know what? Thanks for giving us a call. But before we begin, let me just make sure I can help you first. Let me make sure you're in the right place. I'm going to ask a few basic questions. This is going to let me know if I could save you time or if I can help you. If I can help you, I'll show you exactly what I could do. And then I move right into the conversation because I already know that the prospect's first point of resistance is whether or not they're wasting their time, because that's the most precious part of their daily lives, right? Is how much time they have. If you think about it, we basically answer any commitment of our attention based on whether or not it's worth our time, right? And sometimes that decision-making may have a biased opinion. And so you may think you have enough time to go chit-chat. You may think you have enough time to go these social events. But at the end of the day, you have to understand the return of that and how we make our decisions. And so when consumers make a decision to speak with you even further, they need the rapport. They need to know that you're likable. They need to know that you like them. And it's not a matter of understanding their kids and their kids' hobbies and letting them know that you got kids, right? I mean, that's cool and all, but there's a time and a place for that. So the very first ingredient that you need to start implementing is immediate rapport building. The second most important thing that rapport will give you is the comfort from the prospect of knowing that they can answer your questions truthfully without any guard. So when they answer your questions and you're trying to figure out their pain, they'll be open to it, right? So they'll answer your questions accordingly. And it's very important you ask the right questions, that they're open-ended questions, because really rapport building is really more about listening. It's not about talking. You don't need to talk. You don't need to fill up any, dead silent spots. Just be a little bit more methodical and ask questions that are impactful and open-ended so that they can actually spill the beans to you. And what I mean by spill the beans is that they're telling you how you can sell them, which is fucking crazy, right? Like in other words, like, hey, Mr. Patel, how can I sell you today? That's in so many words. But the second important thing is the qualification. So you need to make sure that, if these people are looking to buy a car and you're over here selling luxury sedans, right, that they got the budget or they have the ability to even afford it. And that's just an example. But ultimately what we're doing is we're figuring out whether or not they even have the capability to make the decision, if they have the capacity to even afford your services or qualify for your services. You see, a lot of salesmen got that in reverse, meaning that they'll go right into qualification, assume that they don't qualify, and then completely bypass the rapport building, which makes no sense considering that we can establish a little relationship right away where if they're not ready to move right then and there, it doesn't mean that they're not ready to move in a month or 3 months or 6 months, right? You see, the titans of this industry, the top performers, understand the value of data farming. And this is why CRMs are so important, is because it automates the contact management system. And so if this person isn't ready today, that's fine. I'll contact them in 3 months, but I'm going to leave such a good impression that this person, once he sees me or he sees my drip email campaigns go to his inbox, he's not going to guard it and think, oh, here's that cheesy salesman that got upset because he couldn't close me that day. Right. And so everything that you do is of course meant for the intent to make a sale that day. You want to make multiple sales. And that's why, the ingredient number one, which is rapport, is so important. Do you guys, what's your current method right now? Comment below in the comment section. What's your method of getting rapport? You see, a lot of salesmen believe that in order to get rapport, you need to talk with too much enthusiasm. You need to ask fake questions. I'm actually reading this book. It's called Captivate. And Captivate teaches you a lot about emotional intelligence. And in this book, they did a survey. They did this study where they showed pictures to these participants who did the survey of looking at authentic smiles versus real smiles. Fake smiles, right? So immediately they knew within a flash second, because I think they showed the picture for like less than half a second. And they were able to justify, I think like 90% were able to justify which were authentic and which were not, which is a cue because these are energies that we emit. And so I guess the reason why I'm going over that is because when you're trying to build rapport from an inauthentic place and you're asking questions that you don't really care about, but you think that it's the right questions, like, hey, how are you today? How was dinner? Right? They know that you don't care. And I'm sure you guys have been asked a question like that, right? Like someone's asking, we do it every day, right? Like sometimes when we're walking by, we'll say hi to somebody or we'll be like, hey, how's your weekend? But continue walking because you don't care, right? But the authentic people, the people that really are memorable, they'll look you in your eye, they'll stop what they're doing and their full attention is on you. Right. And so now it's memorable because it's actually authentic, and it's very, very powerful to understand these cues and understand when you're coming off inauthentic in order to build rapport. But rapport is important because without ingredient number one, you wouldn't be able to get in the second ingredient, which is leverage. So understand that rapport is meant to kind of soften the guard for your prospect, right? So immediately, let's picture the guard. We'll call him Jim. So Jim is going to contact me with just this full open guard. And he's going to say, you know what, I'm going to call this company and I'm not going to say yes. I just want to know if they got a 1.25 30-year fix that I think I saw 3 months ago. And it's no cost because you know what? My name is Jim and I got a 900 FICO score and I don't even need this loan. I could pay it off tomorrow. I got enough money in checking. I'm talking about that dude. So when that person gets a hold of you on the phone and then you immediately jump in like that enthusiastic salesman, like, hey, Jim, how you doing? It's a great day at my company. Tell me about yourself. How can I help you today, Jim? Right? There's just, you're giving it away because it's inauthentic. And so what you want to do with Jim is understand first through empathy that Jim Jim is not going to want to waste any of his time. What Jim wants to do is make sure that he's not taken advantage of. What Jim wants to do is understand that you're worth Jim's time. Because again, what we do in order to actually invest more attention is just to confirm whether or not it's worth our time, right? So we're kind of like Netflix commercials and shit. and when Jim's searching through what options to go, he's looking at the trailer and then moving on. Like he's just one of those people, just window shopping, right? But the idea first is to open up Jim in a way where his guard is down and it's a win-win for both of us. And that's why those words are very helpful. But with Rapport, I'm able to find out the real reason why Jim needs the information that I'm giving, because he's not there to buy yet, right? He's just there for information. And so what you want to do is create an engagement or a communication in a way where Jim is so interested to figure out what that information is, and you're kind of just holding it as a carrot as you use it to extract the right material, the right information from Jim that lets us know what his real reasons why are, what the pain points are, what the solution means to him, and what will happen if Jim doesn't implement that solution. Does that make sense? So we need to capture that. But not only that, we also need to figure out whether or not Jim is even in the market to make a decision, if there's enough leverage, which is the second ingredient, to influence Jim to act with urgency, right? To influence Jim to take action right away, to make a decision right away. You see, I think that leverage is captured by most salesmen, but they just simply don't know what to do with it. Meaning you might know, or you might come to find out that Jim needs a little bit of cash to pay off debt, and we'll just write that down, right? Like Jim looking for debt consolidation, 30K debt, or Jim's looking to buy a $500,000 home. And so that's the objective for Jim, right? But how many of us actually utilize Rapport in order to find out why that's important to Jim? You see, what I've learned in actually studying emotional intelligence and kind of studying the behaviors of consumers is that they're very much like us. In order for us to take action or to do something, there has to be a return on it. Does that make sense? So the reason why you do cold calling, as much as you dread it, the reason why you take that 30-minute 10:03 with someone who has 99 questions because you dread it, is because there's a return, right? There's a return in compensation. There's a return on making a sale. There's a return on increasing your confidence in actually making something of it. And so Jim and any other consumer have the same exact objective, is just to figure out, how can they find a solution for their problem? And without Rapport, you're not going to be able to find out these important details. So leverage is key, because Jim may just very well say, hey, I need about 20 grand or 30 grand to pay off debt. And if we just take it as that, just at face value, we won't really understand why that's a pain point for Jim. And that is where our leverage is, right? So why is that important to Jim? Well, it's important to Jim because Jim is living check to check. It's important to Jim because he's tapped out on all reserves. No more credit limit, no more savings in the bank, and expenses are just increasing. Jim needs help because Jim just had a baby, and now there's other expenses to consider, and there's a drop in income while Mrs. Jim is on maternity leave. Does that make sense? So it goes deeper into the actual reasons why. But at face value, when you ask Jim, hey, how can I help you, Jim? And Jim says, yeah, I'm thinking about paying off some debt, maybe doing some home improvements. Then we need to figure out why that's important, and that piece is leverage. Now, the reason why leverage is important is because when you think of leverage, right? Like when I was selling, and I used to work for a subprime lender, I worked for a lender that had the highest rates. They were just a subprime lender. It was called Ameriquest. And this company specialized in selling 2-year fixed ARMs with a 3-year prepayment penalty. And our adjustable rate mortgage rates were higher than fixed rates. So then the question is, well, why would anybody do that? Right? Well, number one, they did it because they needed the solution. We were trained to figure out how to create leverage, right? How to actually sell benefit. We came up in a day where we didn't, at least I myself, learning with the company and learning from the closers within that industry or in that particular company, that they never sold price. They never sold fees, because most salesmen do that. Most salesmen, and if you're humble enough to admit inside the comment section, yeah, D, that's how I make my sales. I go right into price. I go right into free services, right? And that's okay if you do. And that's why I'm glad that you're here at the live stream, because you're able to kind of dissect like these 3 important ingredients and figure out why it's so important to you, right? Why it's so important to implement in each and every conversation. Because again, without rapport, you're not going to open them up to figure out how to sell them. Without leverage, you're not going to be able to influence urgency and drive them towards the close, because selling and closing are 2 different things, right? So rapport allows you to engage and open them up. Then as you find leverage and as you find their qualifications, you're actually starting to implement and plant seeds of the sale. And how do you plant seeds of the sale? You don't start planting seeds like, hey, well, we got this awesome product at 3.99, 30-year fix. It's absolutely free, Jim. You're going to love it. No, we sell them by starting to paint a picture of what life will be like after the solution is implemented, right? Because what we're doing is we're getting Jim in this emotional state where he desires the services and the solution you give. But it takes patience. It takes the right calculation of actually pivoting from rapport building to leverage finding, right? So sometimes it's mixed throughout the entire conversation, but you just need to understand why these ingredients are very important. And if you do, and you start implementing these 3 ingredients, not only will you find less resistance in making more sales, but it's just going to become much easier for you. Why is because again, you've created the rapport that allowed you to remove your prospect's guard, and they all have it, right? Do you agree? Comment yes. If you agree, say, man, all prospects are on guard, bro. Do you want to know why? This is the thing that most salesmen don't do, though, is just really sit down and say, okay, well, why? Why are they on guard? And you'll find that a lot of it has to do with fear. A lot of it has to do with fear of making the wrong decision, fear of paying more than they need to, right? Fear of not understanding what the hell you're talking about, right? So we got to pick up on these clues. And when we do, then we can adapt our message in a way where we remove the fear, have them feel comfortable, learn to like us, and then open up their heads, open up their thoughts, open up their feelings, right? That's so important. Because when they open up their feelings, those feelings are the emotions behind their decision making. And of course, there's that saying, right? People buy with emotions, then justify it through logic. And that's why leverage is the second ingredient in making a sale. Now, the third most important ingredient, after you build up rapport, after you find the leverage, the third important ingredient is confidence. Now, a lot of you have already heard me say this, but in my opinion, I believe sales is the ability to transfer an emotion. And I never really dive deep into that, but what I'm talking about is when you are confident, right? And this is why this is the third ingredient. When you are confident that you have the right answer, you express it through your tonality, you express it through your enthusiasm, your energy, and there's just confidence. You see, there's no confidence when you ask if they like the solution. Like, how's that sound? Would you like to move forward? That's not confidence. Confidence is assuming the close and driving them. Confidence is understanding human emotions and not making them basically make a decision. You're not putting them on the spotlight where they're going to get nervous or get stage fright and say, so what do you think, Jim? Because they don't want to say the wrong thing, right? They're still very protective. So with confidence, as long as you're sold on the solution, because you've done everything right? You got rapport. Jim now likes you. You're Jim's fucking best friend now. And Jim's telling you all the reasons as to why he needs your services and why he needs your solutions. And so now you understand where Jim's pain is coming from, where Jim's fears are coming from, why Jim needs a solution, but more importantly, what will happen to Jim if he doesn't get the solution fast, if he doesn't get it today. You see, now you're so emotionally invested into helping Jim, not selling him, that it radiates through your tonality when you say, hey, Jim, check this out. I got this idea. I want to run it by you first, okay? Now, you mention that you just had a new kid, or you mention that every single month you're check to check. You mention that you're fearful because you have no more available assets or solutions if in the event you go into a deficit. So if what you earn in net income per month does not pay for all of your liabilities and your debts, typically what I see the trend is your credit cards are growing to offset the cost of groceries, living, hobbies, child expenses. And in order to kind of remove you from that inevitable path of financial hardship, credit deterioration, and doom, what I want you to look at is this idea. Check this out, Jim. If we implement this today, and I want to get your feedback on this, but if we were to do this can actually help remove a lot of the expenses that you're paying per month. This can help rehabilitate your FICO. You see what I'm saying? So you're confident that your services and your solutions gives Jim the exact answers and the Band-Aid that he needs. But you feel it, meaning your confidence is so sold on the actual solution that you came up with, that your services provide, that it comes through in your delivery, right? Now you deliver it in a way where it gets Jim to do nothing but say, yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, man, that would be wonderful. Oh, that would be so awesome. Hey, Daniel, this is exactly what I'm looking for. And so when you ask him this, so what are your thoughts on that? Jim's going to say, man, that's beautiful, Daniel. How do I do that? How do I get that started? Well, this is how. And then you close them. Make sense? So rapport, leverage, and confidence. Those are the three most important ingredients in actually making a sale. Now, just because I gave you three in order to make a sale, it doesn't mean that you do it on one call. It's very, very, very important that you spread these three ingredients out through the actual initiation, right? And you could be selling anything. Those three things are very important to you. It's very important because we need to find a way to make Jim act fast. We need to find a way to make Jim be loyal. We need to find a way to build enough rapport where Jim is committed to us. And when I say us, I'm talking about us, like individually, not our company, right? Not our logo, not our brand. I'm talking about you. Like Jim is all about you. and what happens is when that kind of connection and that bond is created, Jim's not going to think about anything else but you. It's going to be a little weird. Like Jim's going to be thinking about you all day long, boo-boo. But the key thing is that you can confidently put Jim's file into your process system and let it go. Right? Because you've set up the right expectations, you've planted the right seeds, and now Jim is your number one fan. And what happens when Jim actually completes the process? Jim becomes your referral partner. Jim becomes so pleased that he's going to write you a review, which you could share your review on your brand page. Jim is going to love you. So the next time that Jim can do another transaction that's going to positively change his life, he's not going to hesitate to do it with you again. So Jim now gets added to our book of business because we did every single thing right. And I didn't sit there and get all three from Jim. I didn't get rapport from Jim, leverage from Jim, and confidence for Jim in one phone call and then try to close them. Because I'm still aware of the other important ingredients, like decision making, right? Like, is Jim even the one who can make this decision? Is Jim married? I'm basically courteous enough and respectful enough to not put Jim in that position where he has to make a decision that he can get in trouble for, he could face the consequences for. Because what happens is if you don't time your delivery right with Jim, all of that time and investment towards Jim's application is just going to go right down the drain. Because Jim don't know what you do. Jim doesn't do what we do. He doesn't talk our language, right? And so for us to leave it up to Jim to then explain it to Mrs. Jim, man, that's going to lead you up to failure. And then we get frustrated wondering why Jim and Mrs. Jim don't pick up the phone anymore. It's because you allowed that man to try to reiterate everything that you just explained to him. And because you're the pro and you have so much more repetitions in explaining the benefit, Jim only remembered a fraction of it. So when Jim tells his wife, he's not going to tell him exactly how you told it. So you got to be the one that do that, because at the third ingredient, which is confidence, is needed at the point where you're communicating it to both decision makers, right? Now you might be like, well, but D, how do I get both of them together? You know, a lot of times how I currently set up my pitches is right after the conversation, it takes me about 30 minutes. And so I just call them back in 30 minutes. Well, assess your current plan right now and figure out, man, if that's not working, then there's a reason. And there's a reason because of what I just outlined. It's the fact that we're leaving it up to him to go explain to his spouse, or we're leaving it up to him to go speak to his financial planner. Right? Well, let me talk to my financial planner. Let me get to my CPA. You ever get those clients? Comment below if you get those clients. Like, all right, let me go and talk to my financial advisor. Boo-boo. Man, your financial advisor is going to tell you that you're living month to month. They're going to tell you that your FICO score is going down because of your credit card debt. They're going to tell you that Mrs. Jim loves that Louis Vuitton brand and all you got is maxed out credit cards because Mrs. Jim loves that Louis Vuitton brand. Does that make sense? But see, you wouldn't know that. You wouldn't know that unless you built up the rapport until you actually extracted the right information to give you the leverage and position you to have the most confidence in delivering your solution to Jim and Mrs. Jim. You see, when you deliver your message, you need to be positioned properly to where the very first call is really all about rapport and leverage. That's it. It has nothing to do with pitching price, has nothing to do with rate or cost. And you might be like, yo, but D, that's all they do. That's all they ask me for, bro, is what is your cost? What is your price? What is your blah, blah, blah? That's fine. All you have to do is manufacture an automated response to any questions that have to do with price. So my default question, if you guys want to write it down, and I'd like to know what your guys' default question is whenever price is brought up or fees is brought up on the very first call, usually within the first 10, 20 minutes of actually saying hello, when someone brings up price like, hey, D, or hey, Jim, what's your cost? What's your price? I want to know what your default question is. But what my default question is, yeah, that's exactly what I'm putting together for you. As a matter of fact, I'm actually going to send it to your email. Let me just confirm first to ensure that the information I share with you is relevant and is worth your time. Make sense? So if they say, hey, D, what's your lowest rate? I just need to know. Yeah, that's actually what I'm finding out right now. So the property is your primary, right? Does that make sense? I deflect it. I acknowledge it, deflect it, and then guide them more closer down the line because depending on when they ask that question, usually I don't have enough leverage yet to even justify my price to him. And because I understand that in order to justify my price and for Jim to buy, the price, the value actually needs to exceed the price. So what I'm really looking for is value. Does that make sense? That's what makes closing easier, is when the conceived value, the perceived value of what your services and your products do, once that exceeds price and then it becomes a no-brainer, it's just on. And so now they're glued to you. But the problem is though, is that usually when we deliver information on rate, fees, and price, it's too premature, right? I call it premature speculation, right? Or just you're assuming that like Jim's going to go ahead and buy because I got the lowest rate and lowest price, or I'm just going to go and tell Jim what my rate and my price is because if he's not even going to mess with me, I don't want to spend 45 minutes on the phone with Jim. Whatever your justification system is, you just need to understand that until you can demonstrate that your value exceeds the price for your services, you're going to have a very difficult time in making that sale. Comment below if you agree. Comment below which of the three you think is most powerful in making a sale. And if you realize that rapport and leverage is all about call one or your very first engagement because you're methodically setting up your pitch or your presentation for when all the right parties are there. And since you had some time to breathe and since you had some time to actually structure and assess the deal, now you have complete confidence, or at least you have enough time to build up the right confidence in order to communicate your message in a way where Jim and Mrs. Jim also absorb that confidence. Make sense? And this is how you automate your sales system. You see, I think a lot of times, and I used to be very guilty of it too, when we go into our sales process throughout the day, all we do is we're just looking for the quick, least resistance sale. We're looking for the lowest hanging fruit. But you know what the Titans do? The top producers do? They make it a game. You know why? Because they're actually looking for people to give resistance to, or people that gives resistance to them. Because they understand that through their experience, those that are just laydowns, easy to go, typically are those who never make moves, right? Or usually those who don't even qualify. And so they actually get turned on when they get a challenge. They actually get turned on when they feel resistance because now it becomes a game. Like, okay, we're sparring right now. I may not have hit you yet, but I'm gonna tag you a couple times. And I'm gonna tag you a couple times with some thought-provoking questions that are gonna open you up so you're not on guard. Once you put your hands down, I'm gonna bah that ass with some leverage, right? And when you got the birds hanging around your head and you're a little bit of dizziness because I just comboed you with nothing but value and leverage, then I move in with the close. Does that make sense? So if you look at it as a game and you look at it as more of kind of like a formula, because all you're doing, really the bare bones of it all is positioning, right? And my mentor taught me a valuable lesson. That lesson was, was you always need to position yourself to win. The fastest way to succeed is position yourself to win. That's what his quote was. And that guy's name is Chris Schuba. And he was actually one of the top producers in my company, Ameriquest. He was like the youngest kid. He did the most loans in the company ever. And he was just kind of like this legend, right? And so I remember whenever you looked at him, he's like the whiz kid. Like this kid he was a hacker, but he was very smart, very methodical, very logical, but yet understood human emotions. And he said that, the fastest way to win at anything is to position yourself to win. And so, he said that, and I had to figure it all out later. But, because when you hear some Confucius stuff like that, like you don't really kind of break it down, right? Until like years later, I'm like, oh, that's what he meant. And basically what he meant was in order for you to win, you just need to do the things that enable you to win. And so if you're pitching your deals right now, 30 minutes after you said hello, you're not winning because you haven't positioned yourself to win. Or if you're getting hung up on, or no one's giving you their social, or no one's completing a 1003 with you, it's simply because you're not positioning yourself to get that attention or get that compliance or get that agreement. Does that make sense? Comment below. Let me know if that makes sense. Is that a powerful saying or what? But, I needed to drive these three ingredients because when you really break it down, yes, it does sound cliche. Yes, it does sound obvious, but now you understand why they're important, because rapport enables you to capture leverage and understanding what their pain points are, understanding how you're actually bringing them value, understanding how you're positively changing their lives, then gives you confidence inside of your product and service. You see, a lot of times when we lose a sale, it's because we are not emotionally bought into our service. We're not bought into our product. We don't even have faith in it. And the reason why is because we're too much in our thoughts, right? Like, oh man, Jim's not gonna like this rate. Oh, but what if Jim asks this about the closing costs? What if Jim says no? What if Jim says, I wanna think about it? What if Jim, you see, we already know the objections. It's just a matter of saying, okay, these are possible objections. How can I find my outs? How can I position myself more favorably so that these objections do not happen? And when you're able to ask yourself that, you'll find out the answer. So I'm interested. I want to know what you guys think. Comment below. Let me know if this is helpful. Let me know if you're going to look at these three ingredients in a completely different way and how it's going to help you. So I got some comments here. I appreciate the engagement. I really do. It really helps. Adrian, thank you. Ray, I appreciate you commenting. Dallas in the house. Justin, what up? Let's get these points. That's right. South Florida's in the house. Merchandise Zone, thank you. FIF, that's right. See, I make it a service call. They are talking to a ton of lenders. Most are pushy salespeople. So do the opposite. Let them feel they are making the choice. Sprinkle knowledge on top of the pitch so you stand out. Yes, Mo, that's fucking perfect. That's exactly why you have the most elevated submitted loans in the entire company. That's exactly why you're in position to earn the most income of any other LO in the company within the next 30 to 60 days, is because you understand that. And in order to even position yourself there, you need to have rapport. You see, the comment that came from Mo, her name's Monique. She's on my team. And one of the things that she's very gifted at is to lighten up a room. It's her energy, and it's very magnetic. And so, even though she is quote unquote a salesman, even though quote unquote she is a loan officer, she has this uncanny ability to first build rapport and relate to you on a level. So she has a good talent at first listening to you, right? To making you feel like you deserve the attention, to make you feel like you are in position to make a decision for yourself. All we're doing is pointing out what paths to take, right? And so I think that's very helpful. Thanks for the share, Mo. Marina, yes. Ray, yes. LOL. Jim's going to be thinking about you all day long, boo-boo. That's right. You got to get Jim on your sack, bro. Never gotten those kind of clients. Shout out to Mrs. Jim. That's right. Let him know, Shiv. So rapport is very important. It definitely is. And I appreciate all of you guys' input. for the next couple minutes, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you guys have. So comment below in the comment box what questions you have, and maybe I'll share the last 10, 15 minutes with that. So while you guys put the comments in, I want to remind you again that, the contest link below, it's very easy to play. All you have to do is submit your personal email address, and the response email is going to give you a whole list of ways that you can make points. Yes, these actions are a little bit biased because it helps me grow my brand. But guess what? In return, you're getting something absolutely for free. You're getting a ticket to the top for free. You're getting to work with me directly for free. You're getting access and unlock programs that are for sale for free, right? What more do you want? And so if some of these point strategies are to go and like my posts on IG, or go comment on my last post on a YouTube video, there's reason behind that. And as I mentioned inside this live stream, it's all about positioning. If I want to position myself to grow this brand, I need to take smart actions in order to position myself. So by creating this contest, all it is positioning. I'm willing to sacrifice the products, the 30K giveaway challenge. I'm willing to sacrifice that in exchange for more exposure, in exchange for more followers, for more awareness of my brand, because I see the bigger picture, right? Where a lot of times we are in a position where we're just looking for something fast. We're looking for immediate return. And if that immediate return doesn't happen, then we get deflated. We get turned off. We start to kind of come up with these reasons as to, well, this doesn't deserve my time, and off you go. But the problem is, though, is that particular prospect, Jim's going to go call someone else from your competitor. Jim's going to get on the phone with Mo. Jim's going to get on the phone with me. And we are positioned properly to understand the science of actually closing somebody. And because we do, there's no resistance when we have to close somebody, because there shouldn't be any resistance when you make a sale, because you've gained rapport properly, you've found the leverage correctly, and now you are in a position to close that transaction and make it official because you are confident in what you are delivering. You yourself would buy it. So if you're not bought into it, what the hell you think Jim's going to do? Jim's going to want to think about it too, because your tonality's like, oh, yeah. Don't be scared. You don't want to be scared, boo-boo. So we got Courtney. Your video about tonality helped out a lot when I first started selling. Good. Thanks for the share, Courtney. I'm glad to help. Guffrey. How to sell to realtors. They are harder than a customer. Actually, realtors aren't. The reason why realtors are hard to sell is because your perception of them being hard to sell. LOs have this one truth about them that they will not admit, and it's that they're intimidated by realtors. Do you want to know why? Is because you're intimidated by them because you really, really want them to like them. And your realtor is basically your prospect. So realtor Jim, right? Reason why we fumble our words, or why we're nervous, or why we're anxious, is because we really need Jim to like us. Because if Jim the realtor doesn't like us, then man, what the hell? He's not going to send me any business. So it's really from a kind of a selfish point of view. And I'm not saying you're selfish, Guffrey. What I am saying, though, is that you just need to look at them just like another prospect. You need to change your perception on these realtors and look at them like, bruh, you should want to work with me. I'm your blessing. Jim, you're welcome. Right? And if you understand your services that way, and you position yourself with that type of mindset, you're naturally going to attract Jim the realtor. But the reason why a lot of loan officers find it hard to speak with the realtor is because, number one, the realtor is already being solicited by 100 more like you, and that was just since Monday, right? So they're getting the calls already. They're getting the approaches already. They're getting the promises already. They're getting the requests for the turndowns already. They're getting that all day long. Does that make sense? So of course, when the realtor gets another one from you, they're going to be defensive and they're going to be difficult to talk to. But when you make noise in a different way and you approach them like a prospect, and you first build rapport so that you can open them up and then find leverage so that you can gain the confidence and then approach Jim the realtor with your message, you'll find that there's just least resistance. So my message to you, Guffrey, is don't look at a realtor as anything else besides just another us. They are salesmen just like us. And the reason why it's hard to talk to them is because most of the time they're defensive, which means we just need to take a couple steps back and understand, okay, well, how the hell am I approaching these realtors? Am I doing it like every other LO? And every other LO says, hey, my name is Daniel with New American Funding. Boom, I just put Jim in defense mode. I just put the realtor in defense mode. So if that sounds like your approach, and comment below, by the way, if that is your approach, is that the first couple words that comes out of your mouth? Hey, like let's say the realtor's name's Jim. Hey, Jim, my name's Daniel with New American Funding, right? Just that right off the bat immediately triggered an emotion from the realtor to then go into defense mode, because the realtor is just like us. The realtor is just like the prospect, and they're trying to figure out quickly if whether or not you warrant or deserve more of their time, right? Just like when you get solicited on your door, when someone comes knocking at 7 o'clock talking about termite inspection, like, bro, get the hell off of my front yard, man. So, right, you're in defense mode because it's not someone you know. It's not something that was meant to be. They're bothering you. They're intruding in your personal time. And so you just need to create a message in a different way. And I got a ton of content for you, Guthrie. So go check that out. Another question. What is your best practice for creating the urgency for clients to collect, send documents? Good question. The best strategy that I use is that I put them first in an emotional state, meaning I've done everything correctly. I build the rapport so that they can open up to me, that they're answering questions with more than just yes or no. I manufacture the correct questions so it goes to the meat and bones of the actual pain. So I ask questions, things like, besides the mortgage, what other debt are you paying, right? That would be on a refi side. But if it was like a purchase application, then I would say, okay, what's more important to you, affordability or community, right? Then they're going to say, well, what's most important is community. Well, why is that important? Because I got my kids. It's important that they go to the right school. It's important that they grow up in a safe neighborhood. So I understand that's what pushes them. But if then they say affordability, then they don't know what the hell they're trying to buy. And so I'll answer questions accordingly. But those are open-ended questions that gets them speaking, and they're manufactured and tailored in a way where it's just all about them and the protection of their time and respectful of the attention that they give you. Does that make sense? So a methodical way to get conditions and everything is just don't give too much information. You know what I mean? Like, in order to find out what's behind door number 2, which is your quote, in order to make it official, in order to ensure that you can deliver it, you need to validate a few items, and those items happen to be, your most recent pay stub, your W-2s. And I think the challenging part of it is the way that LOs ask for it that makes it challenged. So if you ask Jim to go and write down this list, and you give Jim damn near 9 items to write down, you don't know if Jim just grabbed like a magazine, right? Jim grabbed this one little tiny sticky note. Like, Jim's all like, all right, man, I can only write 9 items here, right? I couldn't fit all 13 of them. So now we made it difficult for Jim. But as Jim is writing it down, Jim is actually thinking to himself like, damn, I need that too. I don't know where it's at. And so if you just switch up the way you communicate with Jim, and so like, hey, Jim, I'm gonna need a copy of your homeowner's insurance page. Is it part of your auto insurance? Like, do you have this like kind of a covered policy? And Jim says, yeah. I say, okay, cool. So you don't need to find your HOA deck page. You could just get the registration right from your car, the proof of insurance. And then what will happen is my team will get in contact with your insurance agent. Unless you got a copy, that's fine. But here's an easier way, right? And then one of our conditions is I need 3 years or 2 years worth of tax returns, all pages, all schedules. I need your W-2s and your pay stubs. If that's something, then you just need to ask to make it a little bit easier, right? So one of the very first questions I always ask before I even go over that is I say, hey, Jim, your payroll system, is it online? Like, do you log online to clock in and clock out, or get copy of your statements and your W-2s? And of course, majority of them say, yeah, I can log online and get it. Okay, perfect. So tomorrow, log online and get a copy of your W-2 and your pay stubs. I've already made it easy because I've mapped it out for Jim, and I've answered his tough question of like, how the hell am I going to find this? I don't want to go through my garage. I don't want to tell D I'm a hoarder and I got 9,000 pounds of paper inside my office, right? You're just making it easy for him, right? So I hope that helps. River and merchandise zone. What would you recommend differently for a loan originator in an actual bank who gets leads from the branch, but also looks for outside business as well? Well, number one is I would definitely recommend, if you already have a source of leads, you want to distinguish it. So I would imagine that the leads you already have in-house are mostly refinances, whereas you're going out to build relationships for purchases. And sometimes you just need to kind of focus in on one. So depending on your experience and your tenure, you don't want to take on too much and be kind of like a jack of all trades, a master of everything, when ultimately you don't get to master anything. You want to focus on one thing that gives you the most return. So I would recommend that first you find the clear path or the strongest path towards creating revenue, because it's easier to originate business when you know you got 30, 40, 50 grand on the way. There's just this kind of pressure that's off you, and it radiates through confidence in your tonality. And it's very, very important to position yourself there. But you working inside of a bank, it gives you this uncanny advantage where now you are centrally located at a location that has a ton of data, right? Just a ton of data of loyal clients that does business with you. They only do business with you. They've had all their mortgages with you. And it's just a matter of finding those data to then kind of extract those pieces. But if you're getting purchase leads as well on the inside, then yeah, you want to go out and build relationships. It's just a matter of how you can kind of organize your time, because that would be a big piece of value if you went out to realtors and say, hey man, I work for that bank on the corner. I'm getting a ton of people trying to come in and buy property. I'm thinking that maybe I could send them over to you if we can establish a relationship. How's that sound? And what realtor, what salesman do you know wouldn't want access to leads, right? So it's just, again, it's just all about positioning. So I hope that helps. All right, River, thanks for the 100. Okay, guys, so please, again, don't forget to hit the thumbs up video if you found this video helpful, or thumbs up video. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up icon if you found this video helpful. I really hope that the information and the techniques that I shared with you does help you close a couple extra sales today, not only this week, because guess what? Then you get to earn enough revenue so you can afford my training courses online at salesremastered.com. You see how I position myself right there? I'm giving you access to the tools you need to create income so you can afford the courses, and you're not going to have any more excuses of like, oh man, let me just get another 30K from these techniques and then I'm going to go ahead and invest. So I really wish you guys a great day. I hope this was impactful. I do hope this was helpful. And please don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Share the video link with the team and join me tomorrow on FIF for another session. I'll look out for any of your recommendations. You can email me directly, daniel@salesremastered.com. Let me know what you think the FIF topic will be, and I'll pick the best one. I'll see you guys in the next live.